Welcome to the Encore Effect, the podcast where music takes center stage in life's second act. Brought to you by Encore Creativity, America's largest choral organization for adults 55 and older. This inspiring series celebrates the transformative power of music, community, and creativity in the later years of life. Each episode will share moving personal stories from encore singers across the country and dive into fascinating conversations with experts in neuroscience, gerontology, and the arts. Discover how choral singing is boosting brain health, improving well-being, and lighting up the lives of thousands of older adults nationwide. From retirees finding their voice for the first time, to the science behind why doctors are prescribing music for the mind, the Encore Effect proves that creativity is endless. Join us and let the music move you.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Encore Effect. We are so glad that you have joined us, and we hope that you are loving the conversations that we're having about creativity and aging here on this wonderful podcast. And today, I'm very excited about another conversation we're going to have today about someone who is just a wonderful human being and has become a dear friend, but is an incredible advocate for the arts and for Encore. Debra Brown-DeLone is a dynamic leader whose remarkable career spans government service, nonprofit management, media, and the arts. With over 45 years of management experience and a master's in public administration, she has worked across the Caribbean, Central America, and South America, serving as chief of staff to a Virgin Islands senator and coordinating trade conferences for the Eastern Caribbean states. Her impressive background includes training 11,000 government employees in the U.S. Virgin Islands, serving as executive director of Catholic Charities, where she turned around the organization's finances, and working as a facilitator for the Anti-Defamation League, conducting diversity training in D.C. area schools. She's also worked with White House staff during President Clinton's visits to St. Thomas and served as mistress of ceremonies for major Virgin Islands pageants before crowds of over 10,000. As former president of the board for Encore Creativity, America's largest core organization for older adults, Debra champions creative expression later in life. She actively performs with the Encore Chorale of Washington, D.C. and Montgomery County Rocks, supports multiple other arts organizations, and has published extensively about Virgin Islands women's history. A past president of Rotary and Lions Club chapters, Debra demonstrates that leadership, creativity, and community service flourish at every stage of life. In her spare time, which she doesn't have much of, she loves spending time with her hubby Bill, her 3 grandchildren, and her 3 children, and traveling around the world. Debbie, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for asking me to be here. I love to speak about Encore.
You know, we've had so many conversations offline about the beauty of Encore and the impact of Encore, and I'm so happy to talk to you on the podcast now about your journey with Encore and about your journey in the arts. So, Debbie, let's just start. How did you come to Encore? Who told you about it? I kind of feel like you've just always been here, but I know that's not the case. So how did you get here?
Well, I was going to celebrate 1 year, a big birthday. I'll call it my second 35th birthday or something like that. And I said to my husband, I saw it in a magazine, a Smithsonian magazine. I said, you know what? I want that for my birthday. And on September 4th, I was sitting at my first, which is my birthday, at my first Encore rehearsal. And I couldn't believe it. I loved every minute of it. And at the end of it, a lady came over to me and she said, we do lunch afterwards. And I said, oh my God, my daughter's taking me to lunch, but from now on, I'll be available.
And now you still go to lunch with that group of people,
I
don't
still go to
you?
lunch with that group of people. And this is in my 12th year of Encore.
You know, and we talk about at Encore that there's kind of 3 benefits, right? There's the joy of music making and the joy of singing, which in itself is wonderful. There's all the benefits of of health and wellness for our hearts and our minds and our bodies, but also there's this community building and a place to make friendships. And I know you are someone who has made lifelong friends through Encore.
It is amazing. Some people who are now, I consider family, not just friends anymore. We share information about our grandchildren. We have traveled together, not just on Encore trips, but on my trips, I have invited them to share the homes I'm renting in Venice or St. Thomas. I consider them family, and I met them at Encore. And the nicest thing about it is, we are singing together every week for 15 weeks. And then at the
Mm.
end of 15 weeks, we're planning. So, what are we going to do for the rest of the year until we meet again and singing? And so we make up all kinds of things to do, museums, travel, parties, birthdays. It's like a never-ending year of encore friendships that have now turned into family. Yes, it's
And
wonderful.
you asked the question, what am I going to do without my Encore singer friends?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, Debbie, have you sung your entire life? Have you always been in
I
choirs?
have been in choir since sixth grade. I went to Catholic school and the nuns made you sing, whether you could sing or not. They were the first encore. They didn't care. You've never sung, you're singing in the choir next week. And I sang in sixth grade. There were operettas and performances that were theater. And then by the time I got to high school, I established a singing group and I became a backup for a group called the Rosettes. We appeared on stage. We were opening acts for major performances out of the Caribbean. And I did that in high school and then in college. I didn't sing for a while, but my adult life, I joined a choir in the Virgin Islands. And you've met the conductor of that choir, Larry
Mm.
Benjamin, when we were in St. Thomas last year, when Encore was in St. Thomas last year. And the biggest thing we did in my 8 years with that choir was performing Beethoven's Ninth with the Puerto Rico Symphony. We sang it in
Mm.
German, and that was huge. And then I've sang in church choirs. And then for a little while, I didn't sing. And I just, when I discovered Encore and I wanted it for that birthday, I opened this incredibly place that used to make me so happy in my
Mm.
childhood and my young adult life.
Mm. And Debbie, you've done so much for Encore. You've been a board member, you've been chair of the board, you have been a coordinator, you've served on our ADEI committee. You have, in fact, you're getting an award coming up to celebrate your volunteerism. But I think probably for you, and I know for me, one of the most beautiful things that you did was you brought Encore to the Virgin Islands. You brought Encore to St. Thomas. Tell us about what that experience was like for in planning the trip, in bridging the relationships that you have here in the States with those in St. Thomas here, what we call the mainland, right? Is that what you would
Yes, we
call
call
the
it the mainland.
what did that whole experience mean to you?
That was the icing on the cake. I'll tell you, Encore makes me happy. But more than that, I love what Encore does for other people besides me. I have heard when I was on the board, people say things like, it's my oasis in the week.
Mm.
One man came to me one time on the metro and he said, "Oh my God, I'm so glad to see you. I thought it was snowing out. It was ice on the sidewalks and DC hadn't closed down, so we were meeting." And he said to me, "I'm so glad we're meeting. I need this." That was when I
Mm.
decided to join the board. When we went to St. Thomas, I wanted to share Encore with the Virgin Islands community. And it's a very musical community. There's a lot of music in the islands, but more importantly, in St. Thomas. And I wanted to share it. My whole idea behind Encore is, and the joy it brings to people, not just the singers, but the audience as well. I want
Mm.
to have people experience it. I love to support Encore because I want everybody I know in this world to feel what it does for people who are singing and for those who are listening. I I can't think of anything else, and I've done a great deal in my life. I've traveled around the world. I don't know anything else besides my three grandchildren that excites and Bill might get mad if I say this, that excites me as
That's
much.
right.
And I want other people to feel what I feel. I'll pay for other people, as you know, Joshua, to feel what I feel. Um, I I love the ADI committee because we are opening Encore to everyone. And I love that idea. And I believe one day we're going to say, "Oh, Joshua's in Europe. He's visiting the Encore groups in Europe," because I think we bring a special feeling to 55 and over. And when the audience see us, as they did in Ireland the other day and in St. Thomas last year, they look at us and they say, "Wow."
Yeah, and we now know that both Ireland and St. Thomas want Encore to come and start
Yes,
start.
yes, they
Well,
do.
so you mentioned the audience, and I love that you said that because I don't know that we've really brought that up much on the podcast so far. You know, you are an arts advocate, period. So you go and support other arts organizations, and you're an audience member, but you also have had a lot of people, you know, even in Ireland, you had so many people who came to hear you perform and sit in the audience. What is it that you think an audience member is actually getting out of hearing choral music? What are they experiencing?
I think first of all, when you tell people, "Oh, you're going to see a group of people 55 and over, that's what this group is about," and then they hear us. And they hear
Mm,
us sing and they realize we're not doing nasal. We're not uh, singing as they would have expected. There's a lot of ageism involved in people's thoughts. But what they're hearing is a well-trained, well-conducted uh, choral group. And then they see our joy and they see that it might be a lot of white-haired people, but the level of the
mhm,
performance is at the highest level because this is what is expected of us by our conductors. And they get
mm,
us there. They take us there. They the kinds of training that we get in the chorales is is second to none. We
mm,
could be in any major music class in any university, school of music, and the quality and expectations are equivalent to the professionalism expected on those levels. And I have seen it. I'll tell you a big story. My husband has traveled all over the world with his research. He never sung in his life, except I would hear him in church on Sundays. When he
mhm.
retired, I said, "Bill, you know what? You should join the Rocks group." And he said, "Well, no, 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 no." I said, "Bill, yes, you should." I gave him two classes with Jeff Dawkins, two voice classes that year for his birthday. Today, when I hear Bill sit in a rehearsal and say to one of our conductors, uh, Heather, at measure 14, do the tenors hit that note on such and such a, I look over at him in amazement. This is what Encore does. It takes
Yeah.
people who are coming from highly level professional lives to this level that they never imagined. With Bill's first concert as with the Rocks group, he cried when the audience applauded.
There's a real sense of lifelong learning
Mhm.
to Encore. Do you feel like, Debbie, that Encore in its own way is combating ageism?
Certainly it is. The study that Encore was built on I've been in government. A lot of studies are done every day, and then they end up on shelves. Kudos to Gene Kelly, who took a study off a shelf and said, let's do this. Let's try this. Because um, there's no wall that is preventing anyone who joins an encore chorale, an encore rocks, and now an encore Broadway from developing these new sets of skills and shocking ourselves when we hit certain notes that we thought would never come out of our mouths at this age and perform songs that are not necessarily easy.
Mm. I think we're challenging the misnomers about aging and creativity, but you serve on a committee, Debbie, at Encore, that's having some really deep conversations about access.
Yeah.
What do you think are maybe some barriers that stand in the way between everyone 55 and older experiencing the power of choral music? What barriers are still out there?
Well, for us, we know that it's certainly not age, but there are many barriers. Encore in the beginning may have seemed like an elitist group. When you tell people at this stage, you might have uh, performed at the Kennedy Center. They do a double
Mm.
take. I see it at my dinner table. I have a lot of dinner parties, and it's like dropping a bomb in terms of, well, we sing at the Kennedy Center, and everybody looks at you like, you do? And, well, these days I don't know, but certainly it's a big deal. And beyond that, the the limits that are placed on people, well, because of age or because of color, because of economics, because of preference in terms of the style of life they've chosen, that you can't go here and you can't go there. I am so proud to say Encore's door is open to everyone, and
Mm.
we are allowing anyone who wants to sing to walk through that door. And I love that because to me, that represents who I am. I'm a Christian woman. I believe that this world is made for every person to have an opportunity that is beautiful and wonderful. And because I believe that, I make way for it in many ways in my life. Encore is one, Sonova, the Northern Virginia Symphony Orchestra. I'm working with the University of the Virgin Islands in terms of having them uh, think in terms of bringing back the Reichhold Center. And I want people who, doesn't matter who they are, what their preferences are, what their lifestyle is. I want the beautiful things of life to be available to anyone. Any.
Mm. And encore is definitely one of the beautiful things in life. And I'll just reiterate what you said so articulately is that our door is open to everyone,
Yep.
and everyone is welcome and can find belonging in an encore ensemble. And you can give testament to this because you're, again, in these conversations that, it is about breaking down barriers around socioeconomic status and race and gender and all of those kind of big things, but also around transportation
Mhm.
and around visual impairment and around for us people that are still working older adults and can't access our programming. So we're having big conversations about truly we're not going to rest
No, no, not at
until
all.
we figure out solutions to make sure that everyone can sing in a choir that wants to be able to do so.
Yeah.
And that's important to us. It's a part of our DNA. So, okay, I have so many questions I want to ask you, and I'm running out of time.
No,
How
no.
does the time go so fast, Debbie? So, if you were, people who are listening to this podcast and they're saying, yeah, I want to be a part of that beautiful thing that Debbie's talking about, but they're really nervous they've never really sung in a choir before. They don't know how to read music, but they love to sing. What advice would you give someone who's listening like that?
I would tell them, just come in the door, sit for the first rehearsal, and their whole life will change. I was speaking to a man in Ireland, and he said that his wife passed suddenly, and he was sitting at home. And then somehow he got one of our brochures or our cards, singer's card, and he decided to join Encore. And his whole life changed. And I said, well, had you
Mm,
sang before? Oh, no, never. He said, he was on the Ireland trip. He said, my whole life has changed. And I look forward to every single rehearsal. And he said, when the summer came around, his last season was his first season. He said, I decided I'm going on that trip because I didn't want it to end. Isn't that
mm.
amazing?
It is
I
amazing.
love
It's
that
funny that.
that's what that does for people. And I think anyone who is thinking, oh, will I be accepted? Will they like me? Um, will they hear my voice and turn me away? We have no auditions. I love that too. And people can walk in the door and feel comfortable. I'll give you a little story that's both hysterical and funny. One year we were at our concert and were in support with another choir in Virginia in terms of our concert. And there was a woman sitting next to me, Joshua, and during the rehearsal, I didn't hear any sound coming out of her. But her face was lighted up, and I looked over and she had a lot of expression. So I thought, okay, she's saving her voice for the true concert. The entire concert, I couldn't hear her. I think
Mm,
she was moving her lips, enjoying the music. And I thought to myself, should I say something? And then I thought, no, this is for people like her as well.
mm. I love that story.
I
And
was,
it reminds us that Encore is for
it's
everyone
for
and the
everyone.
experience is different for each and every person. So, Debbie, this is a hard question, but when you look back over your life, what is your life song, right? What's a song that speaks to you about your life and your heart and your passions? What's a song that resonates with you?
Oh, gosh. I play a lot of music in the mornings. I listen to music the minute I get up. If Bill hears me coming down the steps in the morning to have my breakfast, he immediately turns on music. That's where I live in the music world. And I listen to music by Chesney, who is St. Jonian. There's one song, basically, he says, I made a bucket list and changed the B to an F and threw everything I thought about doing and accomplishing out the window and just enjoyed life. And then my second song would be Climb Every Mountain, which we sang this year,
Uh,
this season.
yeah,
And
that's so
um,
beautiful.
and I love that because I think of there's so many mountains in life. And I think of mountains as places that you climb them and you get to the
Mm,
top and the view is incredible. And that's
mm,
my one of my songs, Climb Every Mountain,
mm.
because I know at the top the view is incredible.
Year on top of the mountain at Encore
Yes.
and celebrating all the wonderful things that you've been able to be a part of and that you've done. And Debbie, thank you for all that you've done for Encore. And take it from Debbie, those that are listening. Encore is a place for everyone. It's never too late to sing
Oh,
or to be involved in a choir. So come out and join us and check out the website and learn about all that we do. Debbie, thanks so much for the conversation. It was a joy.
oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And listeners, join us next time on Encore Effect. We'll see you then.